In this video, I want to talk to you about 2 reading hacks that I got from Alex Hormozi's 100 Million Money Models, his brand new book that just came out. And those 2 reading hacks are, the first one is, when you're reading a book, listen to it as well. So I like to listen to it on Audible while I'm reading it. I like to listen normally on 2x speed, but when I'm reading it along with listening to it, I have to listen to it at regular speed. I do like this hack though to get more out of it. He talks about it activates different parts of your brain, so you get more out of the book when you're reading and listening to it at the same time. So it's definitely worth trying if you haven't tried this before. He also talks about it helps him to stay focused, where his mind is not wandering as much because he's reading and listening to the book at the same time. And you could just kind of see how you will be less distracted if if you were reading and listening, to a book at the same time. The second hack he talked about is when you're reading a book, finish a chapter at a time. So in other words, sometimes we're reading, we only have a few minutes, and so we're reading maybe just a couple pages, and so we stop in the middle of the chapter. And I've done this quite a bit. I've stopped in the middle of the chapter, and then when I came back, I was trying to figure out what happened, what I missed, or what, I can't remember what happened, or I get stuck, and so it's not as effective for me if I stop in the middle of the chapter. So he talks about reading the full chapter, reading a chapter, completing a chapter before stop reading, if you got to go something else you got to do. So finishing a chapter. And so I think this is really a good thing to try, is to try to finish a chapter at a time, or, not stopping in the middle of a chapter, so that you can stay focused on what you're reading. You can get the full gist of the chapter. If you're somebody who, practices active learning, you're actually, maybe you summarize a chapter, maybe you test yourself on the chapter, you write, you think about what you thought about the chapter. Do you agree? Do you disagree? So I do like both of these hacks for reading. So the first one was reading and listening, like, on Audible or some type of book on audio. And then the second one, so reading and listening at the same time. And then the second one was finishing a chapter. So instead of stopping in the middle of the chapter, you always stop at the end of a chapter before you start a new chapter. That's where you kind of stop. So 2 reading hacks to kind of consider. Maybe it'll help you improve, your reading comprehension, what you're getting out of the book, remembering later on, what you read, the main points, in a year. Could you come back and say, okay, what are the main points of the book? So I think this is helpful for that. So I always like to tell people 2 things. The first one is Henry Ford's quote: if you think you can or think you can't, you're right. So we get caught up in, I can't do this. I can't, I want to do this, but I just can't. This is hard. This is impossible. There's no way I can do this. So Henry Ford says, if you think you can or think you can't, you're right. And then the second one is, you become what you think about. This is a quote by Earl Nightingale. So if you're in a situation where things are not working the way you want them to, you're not getting the results that you want, things are just kind of crazy, and you're wanting to get different results, you see yourself kind of self-sabotaging, you see yourself not where you want to be, just consider what you're thinking about all day long. Is it something negative? Just kind of, is it, what are you thinking about all day long? And so if it's not what you want, if you're not thinking about what you want, if you're not thinking about things that are positive, you want to just stop and start to think about what do you really want? And then what are some positive things you can replace those negative thoughts with? So 2 things to kind of keep in mind.